Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. In the aftermath of the terrorist attack that took place at the Top supermarket in Buffalo, New York, I am noticing a clear double standard as related to justice in black and white in the state of New York. Now, the state of New York claims that it is a blue state that has more fairness to black people than your red states. However, when I look at the way New York State is treating the cases of your Payton Gendron and Frank James, they are showing me that the state of New York is just as discriminatory in its justice system as they claim the so-called racist red states are. Now, when you look at the cases of Frank James and Payton Gendron, there's clearly a difference in black and white on how these cases are handled. Now, a couple of months ago, your Frank James went into an N train, dropped a smoke bomb inside of a car, and then started shooting and wound up wounding 10 people in an act of what I believe to be domestic terrorism. And after your Frank James, a black man, was caught, the media decided to present him and call him a terrorist, and moreover, the criminal justice system, the state charged him with attempted murder, and he was also charged with federal terrorism charges. However, when we look at the act of your Payton Gendron, we're seeing that your Payton Gendron is being handled completely different than the way Frank James was handled by the criminal justice system. We're not seeing a rush by the criminal justice system to capture the suspect, one, and two, we're not seeing the criminal justice system actively looking to compound charges on the state level on your Payton Gendron, because right now your Payton Gendron is only been charged with one count of first-degree murder. And that's something that I find, again, to be showing a racist double standard in the blue left-leaning state of New York, because they are giving your Payton Gendron a wide berth the same way that your red states gave your Dylan Roof and your Kyle Rittenhouse a wide berth to set up to give him a pass. Now, they're saying that they need to take time to figure out what charges to give your Payton Gendron as related to the state, and that's again troubling to me because we have clear, irrefutable evidence of your Payton Gendron participating in the alleged attack, with him live streaming it to Twitch from a camera on his person. And we also have eyewitness accounts of Payton Gendron, and we also have security camera videos showing your Payton Gendron participating in this mass shooting. And what's really troubling here is that as this Payton Gendron has been arrested, though again the way he's been handled is with kid gloves, and the prosecutors are really, as I see it, dragging their feet when you compare the way they handled the case of Frank James. Now, in the case of Frank James, they quickly were looking for the suspect, and within the end of the day, they practically had Frank James's face plastered all over media and social media everywhere. And they practically, after they got Frank James into custody, almost immediately charged him with attempted murder. And then we had the Justice Department coming in and charging Frank James with domestic terrorism. But I don't see anybody from the criminal justice system, from the Department of Justice, looking to file charges of terrorism against your Payton Gendron. And I find that to be interesting because, again, they were quick to go out here and file charges against Frank James, but with Payton Gendron, they want to play the game of wait and see and try to figure out what the evidence is as related to the case. I'm wondering why they're dragging their feet as related to Payton Gendron, and I believe that it's the skin color of Payton Gendron is the main reason why they want to drag their feet as related to this white supremacist who is a whole mountain of evidence to show that his motive for murdering people was the fact that he hated black people and he was looking to target black people specifically. In fact, if we look at most of the evidence, the motive for murder was him going and driving over 200 miles from his home to specifically target black people, and the fact that he scouted this location showed malice of forethought, and this is an open and shut case as I see it. Unfortunately, New York's state prosecutors are dragging their feet as related to compounding 10 murder charges of first degree murder on Payton Gendron. Moreover, the U.S. Justice Department seems to be dragging its feet as related to filing federal terrorism charges against your Payton Gendron. And again, I find that to be quite disturbing because here we have an individual who clearly has violated federal terrorism charges, but they don't want to call him a terrorist. But I believe the reason why they don't want to call him a terrorist is because they don't want to call a white male a terrorist, and they don't want to put that label on mass shooters because they fear that if they put the terrorism label on mass shooters, this will make it where they get stigmatized for being just as violent as an Islamic terrorist. However, if you look at the violence that these mass shooters participate in, it is the same kind of hate that Islamic terrorists participate in. And these beta males have a lot of hate for people, and they have this one had a specific hate for black people, and this is what motivated him to go out here and participate in this act of domestic terror. And I believe it's an act of domestic terror because this individual literally drove 200 miles to this Tops location, specifically because it was a predominantly black community, and he wanted to strike fear and terror into black people because he feared that these black people would replace him, and he felt that he was justified in taking their lives, and he wanted to send a message to black people to be scared of white supremacists, the same way white supremacists wanted black people to be terrified of white people during the dark days of Jim Crow, when they would go out here and participate in lynchings and destroy towns with riots like they did with Black Wall Street and with towns like Rosewood. That's the kind of terrorism that this Payton Gendron, I believe, was participating in, and he needed to be charged with federal terrorism charges the same way Frank James was charged with federal terrorism charges. But your white supremacists don't want that label put on this white male, and they don't want this label put on themselves, because to put this label on themselves means that people will see them as the monsters they are, monsters who dehumanize people and believe that they are justified in doing harm to them, all because they are a different race. And that's the thing that the white supremacist doesn't want said openly, that the white supremacist is a terrorist. And that's one of the things that has the leftists really scared, having to put the label of terrorist on these white supremacists, and that's why they're dragging their feet on Payton Gendron, and they're looking for a way to make an excuse for him. So what they're doing with Payton Gendron is very similar to what they did with your Kyle Rittenhouse, a guy who I believed was definitely on his way to participating in a mass shooting. That's my opinion. And the whole thing is they want to find a way to get your Payton Gendron out and because they want to continue the covert contract where they believe that they have this right to go out here and do harm to black people. So this whole thing, it again shows me how there's a clear double standard for justice that's in black and white. Your Frank James is given a federal terrorism charge. Your Frank James is called a domestic terrorist, but your Payton Gendron, who participates in violence with irrefutable evidence of his crimes, your whites in the district attorney's office and even some of the blacks there, they are dragging their feet because they're afraid to go out here and give out equal justice. No, what they want to do in the case of Payton Gendron is they want to say, oh, what we're going to do is try to drag our feet as related to this case because we don't want to call white supremacists the terrorists that they are, and we don't want to punish the white supremacists for participating in acts of terrorism. So what they're trying to do with Payton Gendron is showing us that there's a clear double standard as related to the criminal justice system, and this double standard is one where they see justice still in black and white, and it shows us that not much has changed in America since the dark days when Emmett Till lost his life to these beta males who decided to murder him on the whims of a white woman. And it still shows us that black lives still have no value in white supremacist America, whether it be a red state or a blue state during an election year. And sadly, they don't really value the black vote because in the aftermath of this act of terrorism, we had many of these black bootlicks like Al Sharpton and people like your Joker Joe coming to make empty symbolic gestures to black people instead of showing that they truly cared about black people by filing those federal terrorism charges against this urban terrorist, this beta male suburban commando who was looking to wage war on black people. This guy was not looking to go out here and be friends with black people. He was looking to murder black people, and he was looking to do harm to black people. And that's, again, shows us a double standard as related to criminal justice, the way everybody is being hesitant as related to charges for this mass shooter. This mass shooter should have been charged with federal terrorism charges, 10 counts of first-degree murder, and we should be talking about either him receiving life in prison inside of a New York penitentiary or living in the supermax for the rest of his life in federal jail with people like the guys who bombed the Boston Marathon and those guys who went out here and participated in those and other violent terrorist acts like the Oklahoma City bombing. That's where I believe your Payton Gendron needs to be, and your politicians on the left need to stop giving safe haven to these terrorists, because when they give safe haven to these terrorists, all they show us is that they're just as white supremacist as the white supremacist who participated in this act of terrorism. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to learn more about how these kinds of beta males participate in this kind of extreme violence, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella. Discover the dark side of love in this goth and lovely romance with Spinsterella. Get Spinsterella in paperback and e-readers at your favorite online bookseller today.